All right, I believe we're live, so anyone in the comments, feel free to let us know. Make sure there are no technical difficulties today. For those who don't know, my name is Nick Marro. Here with Jayhawk today. Usually I am on the other side, not hosting, so if there are any issues, guys, please let us know. I mean, I'm not the most tech savvy. We're going to do our best here. I think we have everything we need, though. We got a nice 4-game slate over on DraftKings tonight, locking at 6 Eastern. Only 3 games on FanDuel, locking an hour later. That's not going to include the Milwaukee-Orlando game. The first piece of news we're certainly waiting on is Dame Lillard. If he's in, the Bucks look okay. If he's out, I think we're loading up on Giannis again. But yeah, Jayhawk, what are your overall thoughts on the slate so far as things stand?
Yeah, we're gonna have a lot of players, and then obviously, like you said, the Dame is integral to the set itself. So pretty fun slate for
Yeah. And I think you're a little choppy. I don't know if it's your connection or what, but yeah, I mean, we're good. But yeah, I'm totally with you. I mean, we did have all the Heat news, so I have the model pulled up here. I'm going to go to Miami first. We could just see on both sites there's massive ownership to both these games. I think we should talk about this first just because it really is where we're getting almost all the value, and not only value, but just the chalk in general on this slate. I mean, no Jimmy Butler, no Tyler Hero. I think those are the two big ones. So obviously that's going to create a starting lineup of, we're expecting Lowry, Robinson, Vasquez, I think Highsmith out of Bayo. I did see that Richardson's in and healthy. Haywood Highsmith, not always the best player in terms of fantasy production. But what's your take here? I think for me, I'm loading up on Bam and Lowry. I'm probably going to have a lot of Robinson and Jamie Jacques as well. But are you in line with the chalk?
Yeah, that's the exact same route I was looking to. I think people like Haywood too at 4,200.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's another route we potentially look into, but probably around those four guys like I'm probably with.
Right. Yeah, and I'm with you. I mean, I'm clicking through now. I got a DK window up. I know Eric's been really high on Jaquez even before this news has come out. We've been talking about it, just waiting to see him get some minutes. I think tonight he's going to have to push 30 minutes when he has been about a fantasy per minute producer. So for me, he's probably my favorite piece of true value. But I'm with you. I do get the Highsmith love, especially if he starts. We have seen some decent games out of him in the past. My concern, I guess, is if he's on the floor with Bam a lot, does he just kind of fade into the background, get his cardio in? But I mean, I don't know. They're a thin rotation tonight. They're probably going to need him regardless. The other guy, I guess we have to talk about, whether we want to or not, is another question, I guess. But Kevin Love, I mean, he's probably going to start here. Obviously, going to see extra usage. I don't know if this means he gets extra minutes. It seems like they want to kind of keep a cap on him. We did see him play 28 on the 25th, but he's healthy now. He is available to play. It just seems like they're not eager to give him extended run. But do you feel like maybe with Hero and Butler out, they'll have to here?
Yeah. So with Kevin Love, it's kind of just like a veteran. So I don't know if he's on a run, but he's okay. I'm not huge about that.
No, I hear you. And it looks like Jayhawk, you are getting some echo.
Yeah.
And yeah, Tanner, just to answer, we 925. I think he's got a birthday party he's attending today. So I'm covering for him. But yeah, the four of us rotate throughout the week, so he'll be back soon, I'm sure. We got all four of us kind of rotating through, so. On any given day, he might be here, he might not, but he's definitely the best producer by far. So the quality of the slides and stuff will get sharper as the year goes on. We're definitely cross-training on all these things, but yeah, a work in progress on the back end, at least for me. So yeah, I'm with you, man. I don't know how I feel about Kevin Love. I do think you could mix him in if you're playing a bunch of lineups. For me tonight, with FanDuel locking later, I'm actually going to be more on DK than usual. I'm going to play some more lineups over on DraftKings. But again, I think it's really tough to talk about anything with too much conviction until we get that Damian Lillard news. So I guess we'll go position by position. We'll start with the guards. I guess we should kind of talk as if Dame's in and then as if he's out. I don't think he's really banged up or anything. It seems like they're just kind of conservative with him. I guess my hunch is that he'd play here, but what are you thinking? Like, do you think he's really hurt, or are they just being cautious? I don't know. We should have this news probably by the end of the stream, hopefully. But yeah, where are you at with Dame right now?
Yeah.
Sorry. Damn it. Yes. With Dame, I think he puts. I think his game away. He should be back, but we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if he's out, obviously we could go back to Campaign, who didn't really do much. I think the bigger thing is if Dame is out, you might want to just lock in Giannis. We saw the ridiculous ceiling out of him the last time. But yeah, and then yeah, Josh is saying we're still getting some echo on you, Jay. I don't know if there's anything you could do on your end. But yeah, I'll keep talking through guards. While I guess you can see if there are any corrections we can make. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, if we do have Dame in, I think we're going to see higher ownership on guys like Trae Young, comparatively speaking. It does seem like Donovan Mitchell's drawing good ownership, even though he's very expensive. But I think we look at these high-priced guards and we look at their ownership figures. If Dame is out, obviously that means that the other guards are going to be more appealing, but at the same time, most of the salary designation is going to be going to Giannis. So I actually think the higher priced guards ownerships come down if Dame is out, because we're going to be paying for Giannis in most of our lineups. And it looks like we just got news that Dame is out. So bingo. Okay, so talking through the guards now, the model's going to take a minute to catch up. But what that tells us is we're probably going to see, just pulling up on my other screen projected lineups, we're probably going to see Payne, Beasley, Middleton, Giannis, Lopez again. We did see Portis get solid minutes off the bench. Jay Crowder looked okay when he was on the floor. Same for Marjon Beauchamp. Not a player I'm ever excited to play, but he should get extended run here. So I think first and foremost, we have to ask ourselves, how much do we like Campaign? He just about hit value in 30 minutes against Indiana. Probably a slightly tougher matchup here against this Magic backcourt. They are actually competent defensively. Obviously, Halliburton's decent on the defensive end, but otherwise I don't really mark Indiana as a tough team as far as defense goes. So yeah, how do you feel about Campaign? I imagine he's going to be super chalky. Is it unavoidable?
Yeah. Campaign's probably one of the best play once again. 4700 still too cheap. So I'll probably click a lot of game in addition to beyond. So I love these guys.
Okay. Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, if we're eating chalk, I think Payne's probably the safe piece. For me, now, though, that probably means I'm going to go 100% Giannis. I'd have trouble getting away from him. There are other pay-ups on the slate. I'm going to pull the guard tag here. I don't think the model's refreshed yet, so I'm not going to refresh. But we do see Giannis, even with Dame in, was the top OF index play. We're going to get guys like Tatum lower owned, but Bam's going to be super popular, obviously, with Jimmy and Hero out. So I think most people are going to be starting lineups with Bam and Giannis. So if you're getting to any other pay up, that's going to be making you different. But in order to get to Bam and Giannis, I think it's very difficult to get away from someone like Campaign. So but yeah, I guess if you're pivoting off the chalk at guard, like obviously Kyle Lowry is going to be popular as well, Campaign. Are there any lower owned options at guard that you're really looking at, even that you think you're going to try to prioritize?
You said guards?
Guards, still on guards, yep.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. Definitely Lowry. Love Kyle Lowry. You just said guard.
What's that?
You just said like 199 besides.
Yeah, I mean, besides the obvious, like we're gonna have to play Campaign, we're gonna have to play Kyle Lowry, and those guys are gonna be super chalky. But I guess, are there any pivots that you're seeing that are lower owned than those two that you're gonna be getting to? Obviously, we're using a lot of our salary for Bam and Giannis, so I guess it's gonna be tough to pay up at guard. But I guess if you were, I mean, would it be Trae? Would it be Mitchell? It's gonna be almost impossible to fit Mitchell, I think, with Giannis and Bam, but
yeah, I don't know. I think Trae's in a good spot here. Probably my favorite overall play. I was on him earlier, but now since we be honest, with no Dame, I think probably will be more in the tier to lower Ks with Lowry We also have Drew Holiday, Darius Garland, and some of these other guys I like as well. So.
Yeah, and I think we could mess around with the builds here. I mean, I know we usually do this at the end, but I think it's very important for roster construction tonight. Like, you're going to want Giannis. Who else? We're going to want Bam. And then that leaves us with just 5K per player. So even if you go ahead and add someone like Campaign, who else? We really like Lowry, obviously. Like, these are the 4 probably chalkiest plays. You're still left with just 5K per player. So we're really going to be looking at some of this value. For Miami especially. Let's see here. Yeah, Jaquez is forward only on DK. I imagine we're looking at something similar on FanDuel. But yeah, I mean, this right here, it's super chalky, but this is like a really solid core. Like, it's going to be tough to get away from any of these plays. Do you feel the same?
Yeah, I think that's the clear cut tonight. That's what I was looking at.
Yeah, no, I'm totally with you. So I'm going to refresh the model now. Maybe we get the update. I do imagine it's going to take a little bit just because, it's an earlier slate, and usually like the automatic updates kind of ramp up as we get closer to lock. But let's see here. So it looks like Giannis's OF index went up, but did we get? I'm not seeing the Milwaukee value yet. We got Lopez. Malik Beasley.
Yeah, Beasley
Campaign, we're still seeing 0% owned. So it looks like we did pull Dame, but I think everything else is still catching up. So I probably refreshed in the middle of an update. So we'll give it a few more minutes. But I'll use Jamie Jaquez, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name correctly. Feel free to drop the the proper pronunciation in chat if you guys know it. Don't want to keep butchering his name, but I'll use this to transition to forward. And interesting enough, I know we were joking about this in Discord earlier today. It looks like Duncan Robinson is power forward only on DraftKings. I don't know why. He's obviously not a power forward. Shooting guard, very much a shooter. And yeah, I mean, you need his shots to fall for him to hit value, but I think we're going to see a lot of usage for him tonight. So at 4,500 again, I think he makes a lot of sense. But this lineup we're building here now, we got 4 Miami Heat players, a lot of chalk for Milwaukee. So I don't know, unless you're playing something single entry, if you can play all these plays here. And get different enough from the rest of the field. But I think in terms of point per dollar and what we're going to see sorting by value, these are the best plays. And I will include Robinson there. But yeah, I guess what other forwards are we looking at other than the Miami guys? I know I really did like Jalen Johnson going into this slate. He's going to be tougher to get to now in that 6K range. But where are you at on forward?
Yeah, 100% with you. Love Jalen Johnson once again. 6,200. I feel like he's going to have 700 range. So really like him there. And then I spent 42 as a pivot to Darlington. Looks really sneaky.
Yeah, no, that's a good call because if you need to get different, I mean, you pull someone like Robinson or Jaquez who are more popular. Maybe Robinson has a bad shooting night or Jaquez gets in foul trouble, and you get a big night from Highsmith. If he's going to stay 12% owned on DK, 6 on FanDuel, that's a very sharp pivot. So if you're eating chalk at a lot of other positions, I think that makes a lot of sense. It seems like no one's going to be playing anything from that late game now, the Golden State-Cleveland game. I mean, Draymond looked okay at 6K, but again, I'd rather get to Jalen Johnson. And I agree with you. I think this is a guy we see closer to 7K. He's really just filling that John Collins role, and he's doing it better. It seems he has better chemistry already with Trey and Murray than we were seeing with Collins, who's doing pretty well in Utah. So I think that move made sense for both teams, and we're seeing Johnson fill that role and do it well. And yeah, we did see Collins' price push 7K at times last season, even with Murray and Trey healthy. So I think that's a good call. Let's see here. I want to see if any other news is coming in. I'm going to check the chat. So yeah, Beauchamp, I mean, good question, Jonathan. I mean, for me, he's not really a fantasy producer, even when he is getting the minutes, but on a slate like this where we're really struggling to get different, I don't think it's insane. He'd be one of the guys we'd see get extended run if this game were to blow out, but again, only 13 minutes in a competitive game last time out with Dame out of the lineup. Trying to see no fouls either, so it wasn't like he was in foul trouble. But again, no one's going to click him because of that last game. You don't want to have too much recency bias with a player like that, so I could see mixing him in. Definitely not a priority for me here, though. I would rather get to someone like Jay Crowder just because we know he is going to shoot the ball. Again, a really bad game out of him last time out, but if he's going to be low owned, this is the type of player, if he can get a couple shots to fall, could easily hit value for you at lower ownership. Do you have any opinion on those wings for Milwaukee?
Yeah. Kind of just there on Crowder. Hasn't been starting, and he's kind of like peripheral value. I think we have better value plays. We got limited, like around max point, all for eligible, and a couple of other guys for. So he's okay. And obviously I have to complete. So yeah, probably not going to be high and for any of those guys.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I thought we'd see Bogdanovich popping. Yeah, he does have power, or he does have small forward eligibility on both sides. The model doesn't really love him right now. I guess they're probably projecting him to come off the bench, so the minutes are tough to trust. But he is a player with upside. If he's going to stay low owned, I think we could get to Sadiq Bey, a similar player, lower floor, similar ceiling, probably lower owned though. So off that alone, I guess there's some merit to making that type of pivot. But yeah, there are some decent forward options in this 4K range. They're all going to be low owned. I'm going to try to refresh the model again here. And for those of you listening, if you're not a member of Occupy Fantasy, very cheap to get involved. You do get access to the model you see here, which has our proprietary OF index, which pretty much grades the upside for players. You could also check out the constantly updating ownership projections. We also have value for each site. And again, if you're playing on FanDuel tonight, keep in mind this Milwaukee-Orlando game is not on the slate. It's going to lock an hour later. So you're really going to want to get probably some of this Miami-Atlanta game, obviously, into your lineups, but it's going to be easier for you to get some of Cleveland and Golden State. So let's see here. I did just refresh the model. It looks like still no campaign, so it's taking its time. I mean, like I said, the further we are out from lock, not really surprised by that. I'm just checking the news feed I have open over here. I don't think we've gotten anything since the Dame news. And yeah, it's a calf injury. I don't know how serious it is. They're probably just being cautious with them, but it is a little bit concerning. It's 2 games in a row.
So the model didn't really like campaign the last time they was up. Maybe that's why it's popping.
Yeah, I think we'll see the ownership climb though once it updates.
The owner.
Yeah, because he's going to be tough to get away from. I'm trying to think, who did Griffin get minutes or Green in that backcourt last game? I mean, I'm forgetting why that slate really went left for me quickly. I had plenty of Giannis, but for some reason, let's see here. We got AJ Green as a backup point guard. I think he's down with the G League, so it's not going to be him. Campaign. Did Connaughton run any point? I know he has at times in the past. He had 19 fantasy points in 24 minutes. So yeah, it really was campaign, and I think Malik Beasley did a little bit more ball handling than we usually see out of him. So that's probably the next guy after Payne I'm going to be getting to. And he did have an okay game, 28 minutes, 24 fantasy points. Didn't shoot all that well, 4 for 10, which isn't terrible, but also isn't great. But yeah, I think Beasley's someone I'm definitely going to be getting to a lot tonight. So, I mean, if you're playing cash, which is not something I'd necessarily recommend on a short slate like this, if you just load up on all those Miami and Milwaukee pieces, you're left with 7K at utility, and you could kind of play whatever you want there, I think. You could go to Garland, Holiday. Probably wouldn't touch LeVert or Thompson at that price, even Schroeder. But yeah, you're going to be playing like 1 versus 1. I think everyone's going to have this core. And then what you do at utility is going to be your differentiator. So if you go to Garland or you go to Holiday, that's the coin flip that's deciding your whole night. So it might make sense probably to get away from some of this chalk. For me, I think the easiest piece might be Robinson just because he is scoring dependent, followed by Campaign just because, I mean, I don't know, the model doesn't love him, and when all else fails, I guess trust the model. But I don't know that there are any great direct pivots there. I think what we'd have to do would be probably go to someone like maybe a Suggs. Then you brought up Highsmith earlier. I think that's a good call, like something like this, just to get a little bit different. Maybe fade one of the chalk pieces, get someone like Highsmith and a low-owned Suggs in there. Even with Fultz back, I do like Suggs upside. And then, yeah, you're still kind of in that same range for your last piece in. Go to maybe something like Dennis Schroeder. This isn't a terrible lineup. But again, I don't want to say don't play Duncan Robinson. He's a really good play. But at the same time, on a 4-game slate with so much obvious value, it's really tough to get different. So you're going to have to at least experiment in that way. So it looks like still no lineup yet for the Bucks. But yeah, man, I'll let you talk. Do you have any forward plays you're really liking here? Obviously, we're talking through the chalk. You've already brought up Highsmith, who I think is a really sharp pivot off of some of the more popular options. But sorting by ownership right now. 1 second. Here's where we're at. Robinson, Jaquez, no surprise there. Bogdan getting a lot of love. Banchero, surprisingly popular, relatively speaking, 22% owns. He's going to be tough to get to at 7,800. And yeah, I think this 17% on Giannis is going to triple and quadruple the next time we refresh the model. So yeah, where are you at on forward? I know we kind of already talked through them, but with only 4 games, I think we could spend a little bit more time.
Yeah. So I'll be honest, I'm going to go in there. But Scotty Barnes, I know he's a head, but if you know me, I love Scotty. 8,900. I'm so fine with it. I'm gonna keep playing low owns. Not a great matchup, but I mean, averaging 45 plus every game. That's how I look at it. So love Scotty. And then Jalen Johnson, like I mentioned. And then maybe you're gonna spend a little bit of Portis. 5,300. Great matchup. Don't mind that.
Yeah, I'm going to group Portis in with the centers, but I do like that you brought him up. Probably going to be lower owned than some of the other Milwaukee pieces in that mid-range. He was just around value last time out, so I do think that's a good call. And yeah, man, I know you're the big Scotty Barnes guy. I'm with you. I think he's really the focal point of that offense now with Fred VanVleet out of there. It was nice to see Siakam actually have a good game last time, even with Barnes really dominating things. It was really the first game we saw out of Siakam where he came even close to doing what we expect out of him. I mean, he was 15 for 20 from the floor, which I don't think is sustainable at all. But yeah, I mean, Siakam, we know he has upside. Maybe in a matchup like this, he does get more involved, but if I am choosing between the two, they're both low owned. It's definitely Barnes all day for me over Siakam, but I did just want to bring up that it was nice to see we finally got a good game out of him against Dallas. Let's see here. Any questions, guys? Feel free to get some questions in the chat here. We do have some extra time again today, again, with this being only a 4-game slate. Maybe I'll pull up a FanDuel window. We can build over there in a minute. I'm going to try to refresh the model again, but until we see Giannis like 50+% on, we know we haven't gotten the update because he's pretty much unavoidable. It was ridiculous the game he had the other night. What was it? Over 50 real points. Man, let me just pull it up because we have the time. But yeah, this is the Giannis we expected, and I know they're still kind of working out the usage with Dame on the floor, but 54 real points. He had 8 turnovers, didn't really matter, 12 rebounds. I know he had some blocks and steals in there as well. But yeah, just ridiculous ceiling out of Giannis. And again, on a 4-game slate, you have to think what players can even get into that ballpark. I mean, we do have Curry. If he gets really hot, he obviously has upside. Tatum as well, but he is sharing usage with guys like Jaylen Brown, Drew Holiday, etc. So Giannis, I think, in a vacuum, is by far the best OF index play on the slate. What's your style, man? Do you play a lot of MME? Like, would you get away from Giannis at all tonight?
I mean, even if I want, he'd easily be my there. I just don't see anybody.
Yeah, man. No, I totally agree. It's just tough. Like, could someone match him? Maybe. What are the odds of it? Probably slim. I'd rather get different with those lower owned guys or the lower price guys. So, okay. Let's see here. Still no news as far as the projected lineup goes. I'd be surprised if it wasn't Payne, Beasley, Middleton, Giannis, Lopez. I do think it's worth talking about Middleton just a little bit here. Really productive with Dame off the floor, but at the same time, we are seeing a minutes limit on him. I do think they gave him a little bit of extra run because that game was so close, but yeah. No, they didn't. It was 20 minutes that we saw him on the floor. He was super productive, though. I mean, at his price, he could hit a ceiling, maybe get you 35 fantasy points, but you're really, really handicapping yourself when you're only going to get 24 minutes, maybe max, out of him. And even then, that's me probably being a little bit liberal with it. I don't know that he gets there. Probably going to be capped at 21 or 22 again. But what that does is it does open up things for Malik Beasley, and I'll use this as an opportunity to transition into centers. You brought up Bobby Portis earlier, who I definitely like. I think he's center eligible on both sites. And then, power forward and center for Bobby Portis. And we also have Brook Lopez. Oh, crazy echo there.
Sorry.
No, you're good. We also have Lopez, again, who's pretty inconsistent, but a guy we do see lower owned than a lot of the other Bucks pieces. So, what are your thoughts on Lopez? I know we like Portis, obviously. Lopez coming off a terrible game. He did play 30 minutes, though. His shot just wasn't falling against Miles Turner, 1 for 7. This matchup with Orlando and Goga, probably more favorable for him. But is he someone you could see getting to?
So I love Lopez. He also had a good matchup again with no game. He was really bad team, but he's 1 for 9, which is insane. But he's good pounds at it, and he should be really low. I like him.
Yeah, man, I'm totally with you. And we're still waiting on the update for ownership, but we can look at least like relatively as things stand. I mean, he's unowned on FanDuel because you can't play that game, so I don't even want to talk too much about FanDuel. I'll just kind of give some overarching FanDuel thoughts after the fact. Again, the slates are staggered tonight, those just joining. The first game is not on the FanDuel slate, so what we're talking about now with the Bucks is irrelevant for them. But I do like Lopez a lot. We've consistently seen him as the lower-owned option out of these Bucks. I mean, Payne's going to be chalky. We know Giannis is going to draw ownership. Beasley, I imagine, draws a lot of ownership. And I expect Portis to be more popular than Lopez because he did have a good game last time out. But again, this is a situation where we're keeping an eye on the ownership. I think as things stand, Portis definitely probably the safer play, but if he's going to be twice as owned, I'd very easily pivot to Lopez. But again, you can play them in the same lineup. They do share the floor at times. It's not like Portis is strictly a center or anything like that. Can see him playing on the wing. Again, no Middleton's in, but capped around 20 minutes. That's going to create extra opportunities for someone like Portis. So he's someone I can see getting to as well. But let's talk more about center. I guess we have center eligibility for Giannis on DK, Bam on both sites. Obviously with Hero and Jimmy going to be really tough to get away from. But after those two and the other Milwaukee guys, I mean, Goga obviously was someone we'd be looking at as value if we didn't have all this news opening things up. But are there any other center plays that were really standing out to you, I guess, before or after the news? I mean, I guess there's no point in talking about before now because we do have Dame ruled out for the Bucks.
So Dame obviously, Lopez mentioned Goga. Maybe like a look at move, 4,500. Not a great matchup, but should get beneficiary not going up against Dame from the bench. So I think he's worth that.
Yeah, man. And I mean, when we talk about consistency for some of these value plays, it's tough to find. Okongwu, obviously the backup to Capella, not usually playing more than 22, 24 minutes per night. We do see those outlier games, though, when Capella gets in foul trouble where he is getting over that number. But regardless, even in 21 minutes, he's consistently hitting value at his price, better than a fantasy point per minute, 26, 23, 29, 35. These are all really solid numbers out of someone priced where he's priced over on DK. On FanDuel, I think he's center only in 6K, which is certainly tougher to get to. Probably wouldn't play him as much over there, but I do like that as a value play. And I think going into the slate, he was going to draw some ownership, 16-ish% we were seeing. But again, with all this news breaking, he's probably going to fall out of people's main lineup. So I definitely do like Okongwu here. I think that's a really good shout. Whenever you can get that kind of production out of a player in that range, I definitely like it. And it looks like the model is starting to update now. We got Giannis up to 30%. I still think that climbs higher. I'm curious to see if we're sorting. Still no love for campaign from the model. Can't say I blame it. But I mean, 6 OF index, not terrible, but not great. 12.7 DK value score, 13% owned. I do think that probably doubles by the time the slate starts.
Yeah, for sure. One thing to mention about Beasley is last time he came in really well, even with Dame. I don't know if that's the case again, but I mean, he's going to play him, especially if he's calling again.
Yeah, man, and I do like that you can. I think he's shooting guard only. Is he shooting guard only?
Mm-hmm.
That's unfortunate because he's pretty much a true wing. I wish we could play him at the small forward as well. But I'm with you, man. I do really like Beasley. Checking the ownership here. I mean, the way it looks like right now, I almost think all the Bucks guys double like where they're at. I think it's like slowly climbing. So we probably see Giannis pushing 60, Campaign pushing 30. But yeah, Beasley's only up to 6 right now. And again, we're gonna see this all climb up as we continue to refresh. We're going to be on another 15 minutes or so before we pass it off to the Discord. I'll definitely run one more refresh in the next 10 minutes. But as things stand, it looks like Giannis is going to be the chalk. No surprise there. Followed by Payne, Portis, Crowder, Lopez, then Beasley. Like, for me, I definitely trust Beasley more than Crowder.
Yeah. I don't know whether for Crowder out there, but Beasley's just like he didn't shoot well. He's good. He's aggressive. He's gonna make more shots. So I'm willing to take a chance, especially Bogdanovic, Uber more.
So. Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. And yeah, I think the thing with Crowder is like, I think he's been more consistently over 30 minutes. Maybe that's why. But again, this is me speculating. Don't quote me on that. I'd have to dig a little bit deeper into the rotations without Dane. But yeah, I mean, we've seen big games out of him where he's playing almost 40 minutes. Not something you usually see out of Beasley, but again, much higher usage rate with Beasley, a guy who is more involved on offense. So if I'm choosing between the two, I do prefer Beasley. I think both are viable options, though. Let's see here if we have anything in chat. Scrolling down. It looks like it got froze on... Okay. Still getting a little echo and reverb, but this was a few minutes ago. We should be better now. BMAC loading up on Miami. I'm with you, man. Will Jamal Cain get any run for the Heat? I think that's a good question. I'm going to go ahead and pull him up, and we can talk through him. Yeah, guys, if there's any players that aren't popping in the model or any guys that we haven't mentioned, feel free to bring them up. And we got a couple minutes here. I'm happy to talk through what we think. I know Kane, he's had some good preseason games, things like that. So guys like to play players they've made money on in the past. For me, I don't even know if he's in the rotation tonight. I don't know. I think Orlando Robinson probably gets on the floor before him, maybe Drew Smith. Do you have any opinion on Jamal Cain?
Yes. I love Jamal Cain as a player, particularly as a DD player. It's just all about him, right? Mm-hmm. He gets a ton of minutes, love him. Should get increase. I don't know if I'm going to play.
Right.
Him in DFS.
Yeah. I'm going to see what the model says on some of these Miami value guys. Because, yeah, I do agree. I like the player, Kane, but do we get the minutes? Let's see where we have him. Only 14 minutes. Yeah, if he was up to 20, I'd say he's definitely in play. Something to keep an eye on. We're not going to have this starting lineup when the slate locks, but we could see some strange stuff here. So keep an eye on things. I think right now, I guess it would be Lowry, Robinson, Jaquez, Highsmith, Adebayo. But it wouldn't shock me if maybe they moved Bryant into center, had Bam play the 4, something like that. Or maybe Josh Richardson gets the start over Jaquez, something like that. But regardless, I think Lowry, Robinson, Jaquez, Highsmith, Adebayo are probably your safest options. I will say Richardson probably running that second unit. If he stays 7% owned on DK, to me that's too low. I definitely want to get some shares of him. That's a player we've seen with a high ceiling at times. We're projecting him for around 27 minutes. If he's a fantasy point per minute running that second unit, Richardson could be a really nice way to get different. I know you like Highsmith. Are there any other kind of Miami guys that aren't chalk that you're interested in? So I guess that's just leaving off Bam, Duncan, Lowry, and Jaquez, because those guys are all going to be super popular.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm just going to stick with those guys.
Yeah.
Not too much.
Yeah, man, and usually on these smaller slates, we do want to get kind of weird with it, but we have so much value between not only Miami, but also Milwaukee, so it's just really tough to get away from those obvious pieces of chalk. So I think you try to get different with those last 2 or 3 spots in your lineups in the mid-range, but you don't want to get too weird with it. You don't need 4 guys that are under 10% owned or anything like that on this slate. I'm going to do another refresh, but yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think like him Duncan be the one spot. Like I think all those guys can get there. Totally should out of power spot. That's very valuable. I think there's more ones he doesn't find quality. I know he's uber chalk, but I prefer chalk as Game Lowry. And I was going to ask you, how many do you think most likely make quality?
Yeah, I think 4 is like the number I'm on. I think you're allowed to play 5. I don't think I would. I think they limit you to 4. But yeah, I mean, and I'm with you though on Robinson. I want to compare him with someone real quick. Remember Jordan Hawkins' chalk the other night? Really good spot. No Zion, no McCollum. I think it was the right play to go ahead and play Hawkins, but he had a terrible shooting night, so he didn't get there. I kind of feel the same way about Robinson. Most nights he's going to get there, but if he has a bad shooting night as chalk, he could burn you. And we have seen, I mean, he's been decent so far, 2 for 5, 2 for 6, 4 for 8. Those numbers are all going to come up tonight. So if you're only playing one lineup, he's tough to get away from. But at the same time, I do think out of all the chalk, I'm more comfortable fading Robinson than I am, say, Lowry or Bam. And I'm more comfortable fading Robinson certainly than Giannis. But yeah, I guess if Campaign's not going to be more popular, I'll probably play a lot of Campaign, but if he ended up as chalk, this is another player kind of like Robinson. I could see maybe a floor with him if he does become extremely popular. But it looks like as things stand right now, we have 50% owned Duncan Robinson on DK, 66 over on FanDuel. So yeah, man. Do you get my Hawkins comparison? Does that make sense, or am I?
No,
you're
you're
far out there? Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I played Hawkins when he was sub 1% owned, and the pretty much the matchup when he was called, no CJ. I think there was no Zion too.
Right. The first game there was no Zion that night.
Yeah, and he went off for the big games, and no one played. I'm not saying it's the same instance, but like it's Robinson shooting line. We know other people beat him around that price point, and I think there's upside on him in some lineup. So
yeah, no, I'm with you, man. Yeah, and a guy I always like I just like the player Josh Richardson, but he hasn't been good at all this year. If he were to start, I'd get to some, but I think people are going to look at this game log with the Q tag and just say no. But for me, I'm probably going to have Richardson in a lineup or two. We talk about point forwards, and people are always like, what the hell are you talking about? But it's when a forward can kind of take the ball up the court, do some facilitating. As bad as he's been, we've seen games mixed in there with 5 assists. Like, this is a guy who actually has really good court vision. And yeah, he's banged up, but he's been listed as probable all day. He just had back spasms. It's not the type of injury I expect is going to affect his game if he is good to go here. So, I know you mentioned Highsmith is kind of your guy you'd probably pivot to. For me, and I don't feel great recommending it to others, but it's probably going to be Richardson. What are your thoughts on J. Rich?
yes. I've only played Rich once this year in the preseason, and got hurt. I'm a little bit behind. So to put that out first, but he's a great defensive player when he gets minutes. He's pretty long, is healthy. You got Matthews in the rotation heavily, and should get added minutes quite good. So I don't mind it at all.
Nice, man. Yeah, and then the other one I wanted to bring up is Orlando Robinson. I don't even know if he's a true center at this point. I don't even know what to call him. But he should probably see some extra run tonight. We did see a game out of him where I don't know how he did this. What the hell? 26 minutes, he had 7 rebounds, 7 assists, a steal, 11 points. He was looking for a triple-double. Like, what the hell happened here against Milwaukee? I mean, that was regular season, right? The night before Halloween? Yeah, maybe that was just in the spirit of the holiday. I don't know how the hell Orlando Robinson was going for a triple-double, but if he's 1% owned, maybe you could get to him as like a last guy in. Again, on a bigger slate, we wouldn't even be talking about these low-end guys, but I do think if you're fading some of the chalkier Heat players, it does make sense to try to get double leverage. Like, if Robinson fails, Duncan Robinson that is, there is a good chance that someone like Richardson, Highsmith, or maybe Orlando Robinson are doing well. But yeah, that one's a little probably too out there. But we have seen he's capable of it.
One more piece of news we kind of gloss over is Gary Trent's doubtful for Raptors. I don't know if that doesn't. I think more affects every day and maybe Gary Trent off the bench. Definitely something to highlight there.
Yeah, no, that's a good call. I mean, it secures probably minutes for OG. Obviously, he's playing full run regardless. I mean, Malachi Flynn is he ahead or behind Grady in the rotation right now?
I think he's ahead, but they're getting like around 10 minutes of this game, 5 to 10 minutes.
Yeah, let me check what the model has right now. I did just refresh again, so let's go down to Toronto. Good call though. I'm glad you brought that up because before all this other news, that was something I had written down to talk about. Um, so yeah, I guess it is Grady as far as value is concerned. If we're sorting by OF index, though, I mean, other than the starters, we're not really getting much love for anyone. We did see them dust Otto Porter Jr. off a couple times this season. He's never a player I'm excited to get to. Precious has been banged up in and out. But yeah, I do think Grady Dick probably benefits here. Um, I'm still trying to get Nick Nurse out of my head because if it was Nurse, he'd probably just give more minutes to the five starters. But again, coaching change there in Toronto over the offseason, so going to have to kind of wipe that from my memory. But yeah, I guess 2% on Grady Dick, 1% on if he gets in and gets hot. There is some merit to maybe going there. I think more likely than not, it just secures minutes and usage for guys like OG and Schroeder. Obviously, we already like Barnes, but yeah, Toronto's a tricky one. It's like they try to run short rotations even when they have guys out. But again, I don't know if that's just Nick Nurse in my head. I'd have to dig a little bit deeper on Popcorn Machine into what their rotations have looked like this year. But that is a good shot. I don't know. Like
I think OG's minutes probably the most here now because like they typically ran off the bench. Obviously, he takes a ton of shots, so probably affect OG and like some other guys. Yeah. So. And then Grady, I'm thinking he's obviously from Kansas, and he's really talented.
Oh yeah.
If no one's gonna win him, I mean, if he gets to run a I mean, he has a massive upside. So nothing to get that cute, but definitely a guy we can put on our list. Sub one was we can like school.
Yeah, man, I'm with you on the talent. He's a shooter. Obviously, he needs to get hot. He needs the shot to fall to hit value. I will say, I guess the higher floor play coming out of the second unit is going to be Malachi Flynn. I mean, he's already playing 15 to 17 minutes per night, pushing 15 to 20 fantasy points with those minutes. So if we get him over 20 minutes here, maybe he's someone who becomes relevant. I don't think he has the upside of a Grady Dick, certainly not the talent in terms of scoring. But in their current iteration, like what we're seeing out of the Raptors, Flynn probably benefits a little bit. But again, if you're really taking that home run shot, I do think Dick definitely has the higher ceiling. I'm going to check stream here if we got any more. Yeah, Kenneth, congrats on the good night, man. Herder was awesome. I think he was pissed. He was getting a lot of hate on Twitter, people talking about how... or who came out first and said it? Was it Monk? He's like, we don't care about your parlays. And Herder's like, I don't either. And then people were tweeting back at him like, you guys aren't even in the sports books. Like, we can't even parlay you if we wanted to. So it was good to see Herder kind of throw that back in our faces last night and go off. BMAC, if you're between Duncan Robinson or Highsmith as a last piece in, I would say look at the rest of your lineup. If it's not too chalky, I think Robinson's safer, but Highsmith is a really logical pivot. If you see that every other player in your lineup's high-owned, I'd probably make that pivot. My screen is refreshing for some reason. I think we're okay, though.
Yeah. I was just going to say,
yeah, go ahead.
Run that core we had with Robinson. It's literally a one-on-one between Garland and who's the other guy?
I think it was Drew.
Yeah, so pretty much going to be Drew away. So I would definitely take one pip in that. It's not enough you don't do too much.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good call. So, yeah, let's go ahead and rebuild this one last time. We got a couple minutes. For those who are members, I don't know, are you doubled up today, or do we have someone else in Discord for the next
I think I'm doubled up.
Nice, man. Yeah,
I hope I won't be active Discord. I don't know where I was going.
Yeah, no, we'll figure it out, man. Obviously, we're still early in the season. It's still a work in progress. But, yeah, we'll work through the technical difficulties. And obviously, we have the chat function there as well, so if people can't hear, we can update things that way. So, who did we have at center? Bam, obviously very tough to get away from. Instead of going campaign, I'm going to go even chalkier with Lowry, at least initially. That gives us the option to take a look at guard here. We're left with 5,400. I mean, it's probably campaign.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's campaign. Yeah. And then... what did we say? Duncan Robinson is now a forward according to DraftKings. I don't know.
I don't understand.
He's like on a date trying to tell girls he's tall or something. It's like I'm a photo on DraftKings. But yeah, so yeah, you're left with Garland. So again, this is pretty chalky. I'm going to keep an eye on the campaign ownership. If he's not that popular, I do like him. But if he becomes really chalky, he's probably one of the first pieces I can see getting off of. But yeah, I mean, Garland's fine. I mean, even with Mitchell obviously healthy, he's been productive consistently around 35 fantasy points. We have seen some outlier games out of Drew, if you want to get different. But yeah, really high ceiling. Had him pushing 50 points against my Nets last night. He was all over the place. But yeah, I think you're picking between Garland, Drew. I mean, if you come down from one of these chalkier pieces like campaign and go with maybe, I don't know, we talked about Grady Dick. He's not a bad option. Malachi Flynn's a little dicey.
Yeah, those are just kind of there.
Yeah, I hate Connaughton. Like, I don't even want to click his name because, yeah, I guess Bogdanovich is going to be pretty popular. You might get an extra 100 to pivot up to someone like Franz Wagner. C7-1 there. Yeah, something like this. This is a little bit different if you don't want to play campaign. Franz has obviously been good, but yeah, let me clear that. Let me see if I can pull up a FanDuel on my other screen and drag it over. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But we don't have that first game on FanDuel, guys, just to remind you. I'm someone who typically plays heavier on FanDuel, but tonight, going to play heavier on DraftKings. I also like that the slate locks, I'm big into UFC as well, so I can just go enjoy the card and not worry about pivoting. Awesome card tonight. I know the guys at Occupy have content for that as well. But yeah, I'm not as involved on that side with Occupy, but I know across the nation we're fired up for this card. But yeah, pulling up a FanDuel fantasy window, I'd love to just do a quick build there. Feel free to fill the dead air, man, if you got any low-owned plays or anything you're thinking.
I would just give a quick shout out to our rider, the best rider been crushing it. So go check out his plug.
Absolutely. And then, yeah, guys, if you want to follow me on Twitter, it's at Nick Marro DFS. You're DFS Jayhawk, right?
Correct.
Awesome. All right. I think we got a FanDuel window over here now. Might be a little too zoomed in. Okay. So, we're starting with Miami. We got Bam. Still a little too zoomed in. Okay, we got Lowry. Again, we don't get Giannis. We don't get any other Bucks. That game is not on the FanDuel slate. Jacques, Robinson. I mean, it's going to be pretty damn easy to build over here as well.
Yeah.
And you're limited to 4 guys from a team. So if these are the 4, these are your 4. You really can't get away from it. I know you're I mean, everyone loves Scotty Barnes, but
he's so expensive.
Nice. I was just gonna ask. Yeah. I mean, are you getting to him over here? It seems a little bit crazy. I really like DeJounte at 8,200. I think that's a good price.
Yeah.
Let's see what else.
No Scotty from Bill.
Yeah, I mean, he's so close in price to Tatum. Like, you can almost just get Tatum there pretty easily.
The 4 is better with Tatum.
Yeah. Our boy Jalen Johnson looks good over here.
I like him a ton, especially the Pelican. If Duncan was on DraftKings, I think he'd be low. But since he's power forward, it's so weird. Like I don't know how. It's just weird.
Right. I'm with you, man. I don't get it at all. So yeah, you could play Tatum at power forward. I think you got better value at small forward than power forward tonight. You go with someone like Bogdan. I don't think there's too much negative correlation between him and Jalen. And then shooting guard, we're left with 6,300. Probably don't want to pay LeVert with everyone healthy. I do think Clay's underpriced over here. He hasn't been outstanding, but you're definitely getting some upside. I still don't love LeVert there, but we could probably upgrade point guard now. Get up to Trey. What does that leave us with? 4,900. It's gonna be like Sadiq Bey or something. Wiggins. Has he had a good game yet?
He's been bad.
He's been
Really
bad,
really
man. And like the year they won against, like they won the finals, he was so good in the playoffs.
So good.
But yeah, he had personal issues going on last year, so it's probably going to take him a little while to get going. I would go Highsmith here, but we already have 4 Heat players, so I can't do that.
Highsmith is step on.
Yeah, well, if I go Highsmith, we could maybe come off Robinson.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, maybe something like this. But you guys get it. We're close. I mean, definitely get 4 Heat in your lineups on FanDuel, especially not having that Milwaukee game. I think that's pretty much the obvious way to go. For the hell of it, we'll click Grady Dick. I don't know that I play him in my first FanDuel lineup, but I do want to wrap it up. I'm going to check the model one last time to see if we got ownerships updating here, and then I'm going to check chat one last time. So, guys, any last questions, get them in. Otherwise, we'll have Jayhawk in Discord in just a minute. But yeah, man, I appreciate you doing the show. This is the first time I've hosted. I think it went about as smooth as it could. Still not seeing campaign dry. He's up to 20% on DK. So we are seeing it climb a bit. Giannis up to 30. I said everyone would double. They've doubled. I think they might double again, though. But yeah, anything here that's crazy to you? I mean, Robinson's still the most popular. I would be loading up on Giannis. If he's going to stay 30% on DK, I know he's expensive. We have plenty of value to get to him. I'm going to have him in almost everything.
You mean Giannis literally like I don't think any player will come like 5 to 10 like Rob.
Yeah. And then the last question of the day before we sign off, Ian, any love for Kevin Love? We could talk about him one more time. I think he could start here. Even if he doesn't, he's a guy who's probably only going to play around 20 minutes. He's fine as a pivot. Wouldn't be my first Heat player in. Wouldn't be one of my top 4 Heat players in. But if you're looking for a way to get different, if you don't want to play Jaquez or Robinson, I think you could maybe pivot to Love. Would feel better about him in his minutes if he's starting. Again, no guarantee he's in even if he comes off the bench. That's just the nature of playing a vet like that. But do you have the same opinion, or where are you at on Kevin Love?
I don't know. I'm not really personally.
Yeah, no, I get it, man. And again, it's only a tournament pivot if you're playing a bunch of lineups. But yeah, I think we're good. Once again, I'm Nick Marro, here with DFS Jayhawk, bringing you NBA content for Occupy Fantasy. Check out the website, occupyfantasy.com, to get access to the model we've been using throughout the video. We also have a private Discord server where Jayhawk's about to hop in and answer questions up until lock. Again, fun slate tonight. Good luck, everyone. For those betting and playing DFS, good luck to y'all. Happy Veterans Day as well. Any last words, Jayhawk, before we sign off?
Duncan Robinson tonight. That's my
Bold call. I like it. All right, everyone. Take care. Have a good night.
See you guys.